Ladies and gentlemen, let's take a look at the Frost Mage in Shadowlands. Yes, indeed, the Frost Mage has undergone some changes in order to try and make it less punishing, yet I know the mathematicians have been already working hard because there's some weird stuff that might happen with this. All best intentions. I think Blizzard legitimately had best intentions to try and clean up some issues, certainly double Icelands, which is something that's been around since Legion, and to make that not a thing. But in doing so, have kind of opened the door for more weird stuff. Now, I'm not going to go into too much detail here. That's inappropriate for a quick look. It's something we're going to keep our eye on. So if you see another Frost Mage video, it's probably going to be covering stuff like that. Let's talk about one of the bigger changes, is that Winter's Chill has been changed. This was the one that caused double Icelandsing, Shimmerlands, you might have heard it referred to. Basically, the idea was that when you toss your little snowballs, you can actually close the distance, because they have a slow travel time. You can close the distance with Blink, and then Icelands while you're closer, and that means that you squeeze this extra Icelands into the boss with all the benefits of Winter's Chill. So now they've made it so it's your next two spells that hit the target as if they were frozen. So it's just standard. You can just do it that. You could just do it live, like you can always double Icelands. That's essentially what they're going for. However, it seems to us in our testing that anything can consume this. Like, we've seen Frozen Orb can consume it. We've seen pets can consume it. Like, Frost Mages aren't playing with pets right now because their attacks consume this buff, which is not what's intended. Now, I'm just going to mention it here, but I'm pretty sure it's a bug. We have reported it. It's probably not what's intended at all, because otherwise you would never play with a pet with Frost, because it chews up your Winter's Chills. So there's a few things like that going on that we don't want to deal with. We have some returning spells coming in, like Arcane Explosion is in and now takes its place as the filler spell while you're AoEing. So while your Blizzard's down, your Frozen Orb is traveling, you've used your Iceland's charges, you now fill with Arcane Explosion, which is a nice throwback to the idea of how mages work. You also get Fire Blast back. Feels really out of place. It could be something you use to, like, kill totems, maybe. It does very little damage, has no interaction with anything else. It's just kind of there. So it is the fire spell that does return, along with, like, Ice Ward and Fire Ward. Now, Ice Ward and Fire Ward are very specific to their types of damage. They do work on top of your natural shields that you get from being whichever spec you happen to be. So they're about 10% of your HP. There might be a niche use for them. This feels like they could be reworked in some way to be a little bit more useful, because right now, why would you ever cast it for that little amount of HP? So we'll have to wait and see on that one, whether they are just flavor or whether they actually serve purpose. I'm always down for the unpruning. I like the unpruning, but let's unprune things that seemingly make sense. That would be a good thing. Similarly, with the nerf to Arcane Intellect, it's now 5%. Fair enough. It's now 5% instead of the usual 10%. I mean, it's still kind of one of those mandatory buffs. It feels a little odd that they've decided to go that way. They've also nerfed Shimmer. Shimmer now only has one charge. I think they're just trying to say, have some more choice in that tier. Have a little bit more choice. Have something you can do with, so you're not permanently tied to Shimmer in terms of the abilities you use. So down to one charge, you can perhaps get away with some other things. Certainly Arcane has some more choices that you can actually deal with. But overall, I've mentioned a lot of things here. Frost feels very much the same as it does on live. My issue with mages as a whole, and the reason I dropped Mage as a main, is that a lot of the talents seem entirely dead. A lot of the talent rows are so set in stone for mages, and that seems to be a running theme across all three that we're going to look at, is a lot of them feel just completely wasteful. Like, you would always take this talent because that's ideal for how this spec works, which means that there's a lot of spells that are locked down, including one of the new ones, which is Focus Magic. Focus Magic increases, like, your crit chance and stuff like that. It does some interesting interactions there, but they don't really make sense for what Frost is about. It's just, why would you take that over Incanter's Flow? Or if you're going Glacial Spike or something, why, you charge it up with that Rune of Power and things like that. So it just doesn't seem to fit in to where it would like to be. It seems to want to do something, but it doesn't seem to be able to get there. In this Zone Bastion, though, where we're leveling, though, the Kyrian ability, the Radiant Spark, actually gave some goodness to Frost if you could get it to do what it wanted to do. Your next 4 spells do 10% more damage that stacks. So the 4th spell does 40% more damage. So I know that many of you are already going, Glacial Spike? Yeah. Now, this does play into Glacial Spike, obviously, as that massive, massive multiplier of damage that it already carries. You're stacking that on things like Rune of Power, you've got the Flurry going with it, you've got the Glacial Spike going with it. So that might create some interesting gameplay or some tedious gameplay, depending on how it goes. And you also have to wonder about how much you're throwing at one singular spell. Glacial Spike has always been in a weird place, with some people finding specs where you don't even use half the abilities Frost has, because you're just trying to create Glacial Spikes and trying to spam them. I know it wasn't particularly fun for me, although on occasion I did shoot off some enormous Glacial Spikes, and that was pretty good. In practice, though, those next 4 spells, again, that can be anything. So let's say you fire off Flurry, which fires off the 3 little snowballs. That's 3 of your 4 stacks, so you better be goddamn aware of what you're doing with this thing. It might be interesting if it's something like, if it does 1, so you mistimed a Flurry, or you're not that bothered that one of your Flurries did the 10%, things like that. So again, this is new stuff coming into the game that doesn't seem to quite fit exactly into how it goes, and I certainly would like to see a little bit more option in terms of talent choices in various rows with the Frost Mage. But my overall impression is, if you like Frost as it is on live, you've got Arcane Explosion to throw in there, and you're going to be fine. There's just some more mechanical, mathematical stuff that needs tweaking in order to get it in the right place. Onwards to the next one.